Uncertainty that goes unchecked leads to fear. Fear leads to paralysis. You don't do anything. And paralysis leads to missed opportunities. Listen, some of you are not going to like what we have to say today, but honestly, I'm not in the business of being liked. I'm in the business of telling you the truth and representing those of you future clients out there who value the truth. So if you really want to know the question of the day, the answer to the question of the day, the $1 million question, which is now a good time to buy a house in Dallas? Well, stay tuned because we're getting into it right now. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking to learn more about what it's like living in Dallas, Texas, well, this is the channel that helps you do that. So I invite you to subscribe down below. Make sure you tap the bell for notifications so you can stay up to date on the current market here in Dallas, Texas. We drop new videos every single week. My name is Jimmy, your local born and raised real estate expert advisor, and we're getting tons of calls and emails every single day from people just like you who are ready to make that move here in Dallas, and we absolutely love it. So if you are thinking about buying or selling here in the Dallas area, be sure to reach out to us so that we can help you make a tailor-made game plan just for you when moving to Dallas, Texas. But today, we're doing something a little bit different here today. Let me introduce you to a couple of extraordinary gentlemen, my good friends, Jeff and Daniel, who are my preferred lenders. We do a lot of business together. And I want to bring them in today to talk about this $1 million question. But before we get into that, let me introduce you guys because, you know, a lot of you former clients, you probably know who these guys are. But those of you who have not worked with us quite yet, I'm sure you will be interacting with these two gentlemen right here. They are your go-to guys for anything on the financing side, on the lending side of things. They can answer any question you got. So, gentlemen, let's start off. How many years have you each been in the business? And maybe we'll tell some personal stories along the way.
Well, I'll jump in first, Daniel.
Go for it.
So you're balder, so you must have been in the business longer.
I've definitely been. Yeah, see, I've got a little less hair than everybody here. So, 24 years I've been in the DFW area. I've seen a lot of things happen. A lot of things have happened over the 24 years. But, I've been doing this 24 years. One of the executives of the company here. Know a lot of stories, a lot of craziness going on right now. But, I'm excited to get into this topic because this topic's coming up all the time right now. And I'm ready to dig in and let's do this.
Yeah. How many times do you get asked a day, Daniel, about this question?
Right now, it's a lot of it. Yeah, many times. There's a lot of uncertainties, but I think overall it's still we're in a hell. We need this balance. We need this little correction. So, but I've been in the business since 2010. Known Jeff here for since 2001. Yeah. Taught him tennis. That's really how we met. Yeah.
Met on the tennis court, and all of us have been on the tennis court together a few times.
Yeah, that's how I met Daniel. I don't know if you remember this, but let me jog your memory. The first time I met Daniel, ladies and gentlemen, was in the finals of the what do you guys call that?
Extreme tennis.
Extreme tennis. It's like
we do the
how
1
would you
point.
Call that? Yeah. So there's you guys maybe set it up. So there's like a. So, we have this huge group. There's probably, 100 people out there maybe?
Yeah,
50
but 50 to 100 occasionally.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, we're just all out there having fun. But during one of the breaks, we do this competition.
The 1 point per shootout. Yeah.
So you play 1 point and winner moves on.
Yeah.
Right?
If you miss, you're out.
If you
get one chance.
And Jeff was on the microphone the whole time, so Jeff is used to having a microphone in his face.
Yeah. I will talk a little smack to the people playing. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So I'm playing, and I win the first round, second round, and then it comes to the final, and I meet Daniel in the final.
Yeah.
Right?
One of the sponsors. Imagine that.
And Daniel beats me in that point. Right.
Felt good. Felt pretty good.
Yeah. And but the thing about Daniel though is so y'all give away a little prize, right?
Right.
And Daniel's one of the most generous guys I've ever met. He gave me the prize even though I lost.
Right.
But he was a sponsor, so it would have been kind of weird.
Yeah.
To get the prize.
Wait,
I was about to tackle him and give it to you. Don't worry. I had you.
Yeah. You probably would have.
I would have tackled him and gave you the prize. Don't worry.
So here's what we're doing today. This is a new thing, ladies and gentlemen. We don't even know what we're gonna call this. We've got some wristbands because we're tennis players. Daniel forgot his today because he was.
I worked out this morning. I don't know what you guys were doing. So I used mine. Yeah, I used my wristband.
It's all sweaty.
Yeah. I'll bring a new one next time.
So, but it might get hot up in here.
Yeah.
In the, we might have to wipe our foreheads a time or two. We'll see what happens.
Can I use yours, Jeff?
Yeah, this is a hot topic, and you're probably going to need mine.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, hey, if you guys in the comments down below, feel free at any point during this podcast here, if you have like an idea for a name for the podcast or something, or just feel free, drop us in the comments down below. And if you're finding value from this podcast, drop a like down below, smash that like button. You know what to do. But let's dive into it, shall we?
Yeah.
So I think the first question that we want to ask is, actually, let's set the goal first. I think the overall goal is to just, provide a crystal clear picture of what's actually happening, because you see a lot of noise out there, especially from the mainstream media, and we're supposed to believe everything they tell us, right?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
But so everybody's hearing a lot of different, messages, and so we just want to, dive into some of the facts, some of the actual numbers, right?
Right.
Personally, I don't really let emotions drive many of my decisions. Maybe that's just the Libra in me, or at least I don't know anything about whatever that stuff is, but that's what I've been told. But it makes sense to me. But so we're gonna get into some of the numbers, some of the facts here today for you guys. Okay. So I think the first question that we need to talk about is this like 2008? And I think for me, it's a resounding not even close, right? So
I agree.
When I think about it, it's like, let's talk about, so there's an analogy that I like to bring up. The check engine light in your car, when it comes on, what do? Well, personally, I take it to AutoZone. They do the free check down here. I don't know if it's everywhere in the country like that, but you can take it in. They come out with a little doohickey. They plug it in, and then it spits out a code, right, of exactly what's wrong with your car. And then based on that, you take it to, your mechanic or whatever, and then you fix the actual problem, and then the light goes away, and your car's good as new, right? Well, in 2008, Jeff.
Jeff. It sounds like you were in the industry during that time.
Yeah, let's start with you. I think Jeff started it all.
Yeah, right? I think so too.
Well, first of all, I'd like to apologize to everybody out there that I take single responsibility for the entire crash. 2008, I was in the industry and I was doing loans. So sometimes you just got to take responsibility.
He's joking, just so that's clear.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some of these the shady mortgage lending practices that were going on back then.
So first of all, when I hear that comparison, it makes me laugh because it's so not even close that it makes me want to kind of laugh inside sometimes. But I don't want to be disrespectful to who says it. So back in 2008, the entire crash was due to the Wild West that was the mortgage industry. People in that industry were, there was no compliance in there, and people were inflating values. We were doing 100% financing with people with not even verifying their income. We were doing 2-year ARMs on products with people that were basically they couldn't even come up with a down payment. That's you're putting people in a bad position. So
the ninja loans.
Oh my gosh, it was no income, no asset loans. I'm talking we didn't verify anything. They took an application and we pulled credit. And if they had a good heartbeat, we were in. Yeah. We were doing that loan. So
when you have strippers telling their clients, "Hey, I've got 2 houses," you're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Wait a second.
we had The Big Short. That was great. It actually is pretty accurate, y'all. Watch that movie. It is very entertaining and is pretty close. I'm pretty close. Yeah. So I would just say that now the industry is very very much more strict on how we determine values. They've really done a good job on that. The values have inflated really fast, but the appraisers have been pulling those back. So there's been a struggle with the agents and the appraisers all the way for the last couple of years. There's been a lot of people going, well, we know it's at least worth this. Go look at that value down the street. So, and the appraisers are really pulling back. So that's why a lot of these values have had to go over and people are having to pay over list because the actual properties are probably worth more than what they're going to actually appraise for.
In 2008, didn't you guys, lenders and appraisers, have a type of relationship
Yeah.
which that's no longer
Right.
possible, right?
Yeah, it was to the point where in 2008, we would tell the appraiser, you need to get this value or we can't work with you. I mean, think about that. Like, we're basically putting pressure on them to come up with value or I can't work with them anymore. I mean, it was that bad. I mean, but the industry itself put us in that position to do that because
They allowed it
they,
too.
Yeah, they knew it was happening. So the appraisers were just artificially inflating values. So when the underwriters would look at the values, I mean, everybody knew if we didn't do it, it was going to go down the street and get done. So it's like you just pretty much had to do it. So the whole industry was just set up. It was basically a house of cards. And whenever that first card fell, and really when that industry started going down, it was just a snowball effect. And really what happened was everything was so inflated. So when the values started coming down, people had no equity in the homes at all. So people couldn't sell their homes. So it just became again, snowball effect of foreclosures. And the banks didn't have loan modifications at that time. They didn't have a short sale. Immediately, they learned all this. After a while, they started figuring out different programs.
I think now, right, if the foreclosures or short sales starts picking up, I don't think the banks really want to do the foreclosures or the short sales just because of the liability that happened in 2008 and 9. I mean, so many of the banks got sued afterwards because they didn't follow the right protocol for foreclosures and short sales. So it's better to maybe help the borrowers if they can't pay than you do a loan modification just to keep them in the loan so they can catch up.
And in this market, there's so much more equity in these properties now. What creates a foreclosure is when you go to try to sell your home and you don't have enough equity to do it, you're upside down. Yeah. So then what do? You're like, okay, I can't sell my house. So you just kind of stick your head in the sand and walk away, and then you had the foreclosure. But now there's just so much more equity. So, you're going to make money if you sell your house pretty much at this point.
Yeah, people have or sellers have a little bit of room now to lower their price in order to get the home sold if need be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, back to 2008 though. So like, I know we had a conversation, about like having homes go without AC, especially in the summer, like
especially in Texas,
were breaking
right?
down.
Yeah.
And so it took even that much more to get it back up to speed,
Right.
so that a buyer would actually want it.
Yeah.
Right. The banks were taking a bath. So, even the ones that had 20% equity in there, they were still losing money on those properties when they paid the attorney fees, the maintenance of the house, and then to fix it back up. I mean, they learned a lot from that. And now that's why they've got a lot more programs and they're really more prepared for it now. I mean, that was like it was just a one-time deal and everybody just kind of learned from it. And now we got a lot more compliance. There's a lot more people that are watching the values and making sure that we're not overinflating values and things like that. So you're not going to have that big crash. And especially here in DFW. I mean, like, let's go back to that massive crash in 2008. And, I think you threw the stats at me. I'll let you throw it back.
We'll do it. We'll get there.
Okay. Well, I'm jumping ahead. That's what I like to do.
But so I know the average FICO score now that you guys deal with back then, it's 100 points higher is what you said?
Yeah,
right?
Anywhere from 50 to 100 points higher. The average person's FICO score now is much, much higher than it used to be.
Yeah, so you're talking about 750s now. It used to be 650.
Right,
you could get a house.
Just the education that people have learned to get their credit scores up and understanding. But yeah, I mean, back then it was it's a little bit harder to get a loan than it was back then. I mean, obviously it needed to be. But, and they've done a good job of that. But what happens is people will adjust to it. And that's what's happened, right? People go, hey, I can't buy a house now, so I've got to fix my credit. So they go, they understand, they start becoming a little bit more responsible on that, and they, get a higher credit score. Yeah. Which is all a good thing, right?
Yeah. I had one more point I was going to, I don't know, I was listening to you so intently, Jeff. It's past me, but.
It's pretty voice. It's a pretty voice, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. I just like to thank my mom for that.
Yeah.
But I think just the comparison is just it's black and white. I mean, now our problems are a little bit different from the pandemic. So this is the housing has equity. We have the market is slowing down. There's no doubt. And again, we're in DFW, so very, very insulated market here.
And that's something we have to look at too. Is like media talks about the national recession, right?
Right.
Yes.
We are pretty insulated here in the DFW because we still have a lot of people moving here. We have a lot of different industries. We're not very centered, or we don't focus on one particular industry. Like Houston has a lot of oil and natural gas, right? We have healthcare, we have technology, we have oil and gas. You know, that's what you need in a big city to stay. Not saying, you know, there's always going to be some type of correction, but it will not be as high as other big cities, right?
Yeah, right. Anytime the stock market goes down like it's done, it will affect our market.
But
so let's go through some of those numbers that you talked about. So these are the median home prices. These are direct from NAR, National Association of Realtors. Median home price in Q4 of 2008 versus what was in 2007. So after the crash, right? So a couple of examples here. We'll run through them real quick. Miami, down 32%. Fort Myers, Florida, on the other side of the coast, down 50%. There's a cluster of major California cities that were between 30 and 40% down. Phoenix, down 35%. Vegas, down 33%. And Dallas, you guys want to guess?
Well, I would say around 8 to 10% at the most.
I'll go 10.
10?
Yeah.
Dallas was only 4.8%.
Wow.
Yeah.
In 2008.
That's insane. Like during all that, as bad as it got, we were down 4% as an average.
Yeah. So, some of what played into that was, we had just the supply and demand of the land that we have, and the zoning and development restrictions are a little bit more like we're not landlocked by like Florida has, the oceans and the Gulf, right? So we don't have a lot of, so just the supply and demand from that standpoint.
Lake Louisville? Are we landlocked with Lake Louisville?
No. Well, lakes just go on the other side
of it.
We're just going the other side of it.
Yeah, you can go around them.
Kidding.
Right? But huge lakes.
We got big lakes.
But the lending practices I heard were, from a national standard, and this is what I read, so maybe you guys can jump in on this. But from a national standpoint, here, what did I read? It was so other states allowed buyers to take out debt that exceeded 80% of the home's fair market value.
Right.
Yikes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here it wasn't as bad.
Right. So Texas, for the longest time, was the only state in the nation that did not allow a cash out refinance. And that didn't change till 1998, which is crazy because I remember back then they thought, everybody in the world is going to take out all this money. But Texas made it very difficult to pull money out. They just put a lot more restrictions on it. And some of the guidelines and laws they put on that for the state of Texas was unique to every other state in the United States. So what had happened was now because of that, we retained a little bit more equity than most. And obviously you can see that equity really helped, especially in the DFW area.
Yeah.
And like you said, the zoning and what it takes to build, if you want to start a business and build it from scratch here, it's much easier here than it is in California and New York. I mean, it's just much, much easier. So that's where a lot of businesses are coming here for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was talking to our buddy Cam, who's in commercial, and he's like, man, you got, it's so easy to build, like he's in industrial, like warehouses and stuff out there. And, he's like, it does. And, you can have competitors right next to each other. Like it's completely different. And we have so much space out there. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And back to your point as well, just the third one, just the diversity of the industries out here. I mean, the job market, we were one of the first ones out of that recession or you could, it was a depression because it was a couple years.
Yeah.
Right. So, so we were one of the first ones out in 2011. So we bounced back the quickest. And we'll do a little. So we're gonna get into some rankings later on. Maybe you guys can guess the viewers here of what. So there's a list of the most what's the word that they use? The most resilient cities in the world. Not just America, in the world. Where do you guys think Dallas was, or Dallas ranked as far as most resilient cities in the world? We'll get into some of the qualifications for what makes a city resilient.
Okay.
But if you want to stay tuned for that, what do you guys think? Top 100 in the world? Top 50? Top 10? Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. You got to stick around for that. Okay. But yeah. Okay. So 2008. Anything else you guys want to? We can move on.
No, I just think everyone needs to know that it's different than what it is now, right? And again, right now, I think it's just a little bit of instability. You have rates going up so quick, right? You have the war in Ukraine, you have supply chain issues and so on, right? So yeah, there's a little instability, but overall, we're still in a pretty healthy economy.
Right.
So
and I'll add this, that when you go back and look at housing prices, right? I mean, that's what it really comes down to, right? Is housing prices. And if you just look at a chart from 1950 all the way till today, and it just looks like a 45-degree angle going straight up, right?
Right.
Now, when you start diving in 2008, you'll see a little blip on there. It dropped down for maybe a year or two, depending on where you were. And then it came right back up and got on that little 45-degree angle and kept going. So, I mean,
long term.
Right.
And that'll be part of the conclusion at the end. So if you want the conclusion nicely wrapped up with a bow, you got to stick around to the end for that. But yeah, cool. So yeah, I mean, it's just the check engine light that came out. The code, if you could put a code to it, was, the lending practices were, very lenient, frankly, too lenient for what should have been happening.
Right.
So you're just giving loans to people who had no business getting a mortgage on a home
at that time in their life, right? I mean, at that time.
Right. And so that was the main cause, which obviously that lesson was learned, and it's not going to happen ever again, really. So I think what we want to move into now is, what would it take to move into a crash? And for me, one of the main things is, the supply has to jump quite a bit, right? Because we've been a couple of weeks of supply of homes for the last, who knows how long, maybe 12, 24 months, last 1 or 2 years here.
Yeah.
It's been under a month,
Yeah.
right? So in order to, just so you guys can understand, in order to switch from a seller's market, which we're in now, obviously, to a buyer's market, you want to have 6 months of inventory. Okay, we've been at less than a month, like 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks for the last couple of years here. So I think now we're, flirting with two months now. So what that means is, as of today, that one house that you see, you would have to have 3 of those everywhere in order to get to a buyer's market, where you start to really see supply become, flip the market to where, it crashes an actual real, term that people are throwing around with some gusto there, right? So one of the ways that one of the places supply can come from are foreclosures, like we talked about earlier, right? So but let's go through some of these numbers. I'll make y'all guess again. Y'all ready? So in 2008, I'll give you this one.
Okay.
3.1 million foreclosures in 2008. Okay.
So many.
Well, what do you guys think last year, 2021, what do you guys think, how many foreclosures were there in 2021?
Daniel, I'll let you choose first.
About 200,000.
Okay. That's a good guess.
I'm going to say, because of a lot that was going on, they were trying to restrict that with some of the forbearance. We're going to say 100,000.
Less. Okay. How about we're going to split the difference here. It's 150,000. So y'all are
pretty good.
Y'all are a pretty good team right here. I think.
And I'm usually more conservative.
Yeah. That's usually. I just thought, I don't remember
the tables have
any.
turned.
I never even heard of one last year.
So the interesting thing is, right, foreclosures are up, right? So you hear that the mainstream media is all over that. Foreclosures are up,
Right.
right? Watch out, everybody. But guess where they're up to? They're up to, levels that are actually lower than where we were when the pandemic started, right?
Yeah.
So yes,
Right.
they are up, but they're
Right.
let's
They got to create a
But,
little.
but
zoom
remember
out
lenders weren't allowed to file foreclosure because of the forbearance, right?
Right, that's
So
what I said.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean that I would say that they probably will go up a little bit, but it won't be much. It just there's no, I mean, the banks build in for an average. They know there's gonna be a certain percentage of foreclosure, and they have to be below that. They have to be. I mean, there's just no way they're not, in this market. So again, they give themselves room, and they've got since 2008, since that happened, they've created a lot of backup plans for situations like that too. So. I don't think we're going to get into a big foreclosure market. I'd be surprised. I'd be really, really surprised.
Yeah, according to the most recent CoreLogic report for foreclosures and distressed properties, under 3% of properties.
And I think 3%
distressed.
is what they target. I think
Yeah.
that's the number.
Yeah.
The banks target at.
So we're right where it's normal.
Right.
Is where we're expected to be right now. Another place supply could come from are builders. If builders are building more homes at a quick pace, right, then that could offer some more supply. But recently, National Association of Builders came out and said they're slowing down, right, and they've actually been. I've been surprised. Like, obviously, being a relatively new agent, I learned a lot over the last couple of years. And one thing that I learned about the builders was they're very strategic about how many homes they're putting out each month. And,
Right.
And like they, when we had so much demand, they were still slow playing it, which
Right.
I thought was, like you could get more people out here and build these homes faster. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Because they understood the long picture. It's like they've done this before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think it was like you said, the supply chain issues, and prices were always going up for them, so they couldn't price anything. So they had to build it to specs, and then when they were 80% down, that's when they could go and sell it to, people on the waiting list, and they couldn't price anything in until they were at 80%. So I think that was one of the reasons they just didn't want to put more homes on the market.
Labor, quality, you know what I'm saying? There was all kinds of things kicking in.
Yeah, I mean, I just built my home, and I mean, we went through a lot of, some delays, but it was labor shortage. It was, supply issues. My garage doors came in, what was it, 3 months later, right? We moved in, and then we got the new garage doors later on, right? So, it's tough for the builders, I would say, because of they have a lot of variables going on.
Yeah, they do have a lot going on.
Yeah.
So the next thing that could play into supply is just people want to sell. But here's an interesting statistic: is 51% of people right now have an interest rate under 4%. So what's gonna incentivize them to sell? I asked you guys right before we jumped in here about. I had an idea of, what if I had a buyer, could I go approach the seller and say, hey, can we buy or assume your mortgage?
Right.
So tell me about that. I don't want to take y'all's answer.
You're good. So FHA and VA loans actually do have an assumable clause in there, so you can actually qualify and assume those loans.
Mm-hmm.
The issue with that is during the last couple of years, there hadn't been a lot of FHA and VA loans because
not many out there.
Yeah, not many because the sellers just weren't taking them. So I don't know how many will be out there, but there'll be. I'm sure there's. At one time FHA was doing like 30%.
Yeah, but even if you go back to 2016, 17, right, there was a lot more FHA and VA, and during that time, you had rates in the mid fours, I would think, right? So. Still better than the 5.5% or 6% where we're right now, right?
It's worth the question. When you're talking to your agent, just ask that question whenever you're looking at a property: is, hey, what kind of loan do you have on there? And if they say FHA or VA, then it's worth a conversation to see if it is assumable. That's not good for Daniel and I, but be good for you though.
Yeah, let's talk about some of these interest rates now. So
can we
and
redact?
how-
Can we redact this?
Yeah,
I'm
can you
kidding.
scratch that whole
I'm kidding.
piece?
Yeah.
Kidding. No, you want to ask that question.
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
And you'll go through the servicer of whoever's servicing that loan is how they handle that. So
and you'd have to qualify
Right.
for that.
exactly,
For
you got to
that same
qualify.
loans,
Exactly,
yeah.
same requirements.
Yep. So with interest rates, right? So, we saw rates as low as like 2.5%. And now, we just came off of 6. So average now is 5.5. So we've seen a 3%
Jump.
jump in the last few months here,
Right.
which has been insane. And so, kind of the rule of thumb, and tell me if I'm wrong here, guys,
Yeah.
but what I've heard is, for every 1 point of difference in the interest rate is equal to about 10% of a correlation in purchasing power, right? So basically, what that means, I like to give examples. Keep it at a 5th grade level here
For me?
Jeff here.
Don't-
But
Thank
so if you're looking at a $500,000 home, right? 2.5% with 20% down, you were looking at a monthly rent of $29.55 a month. Okay, pretty good, right? 5.5, 20% down, same thing, just 3% higher. It went up $700.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So you think about the people who were looking at, $500,000 homes, now looking at, so to get that same $29.55 payment with the new rate, you're looking at homes at $405,000. So to go from 500 to then go to a neighborhood where your maximum budget is $405,000, a lot of buyers aren't going to exactly be excited about
Yeah.
that.
It's 20%.
So now we're talking a little bit about the demand side of things, right? So a lot of people are, like I said, just not as excited about what they can get with these new rates, but that's why they raise the rates in the first
Right.
place, to get a little bit of equilibrium
Right.
going on.
Yeah, we're seeing more sellers offering, buy downs where they apply the closing cost or apply seller concessions toward the lowering the interest rate,
Yeah.
and it can be $5,000-$10,000 and get someone down to the low 5s or the high 4s versus being up in the high high 5s.
Yeah. We're seeing sellers pay closing costs, pay buy downs right now. Title policy, it's coming back.
Yeah, they're calling us asking for feedback on the
Yeah,
show.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
never happened before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, no one calling you
Yeah.
back from the seller side. Now they're picking up the phone, proactively calling us.
Yeah, a little desperation on the other
Yeah.
side now, which is nice.
Right. Just it needs to equal out.
Yeah. But it was okay for us because I was a straight savage on I could find out what, basically I told my buyers, I was like, listen, here's how this is going to work. Okay. We're going to go look at houses and I'm basically going to tell you what it's going to take to win that home. And then you say yes or no. That's
Yeah.
how it works.
Mhm.
That's how we were able to have an offer to win ratio that was so high. Right. But it's funny now because, with sellers coming back and everything, it's just, it's completely different.
Yeah.
But it's funny with the interest rates, right? Going back to that is, people are like, oh my gosh, 5.5%.
Yeah.
Well, so it's funny because we're coming off of the lowest rates in history. And, over the last, since 1981, so over the last basically 50 years, the average interest rate is 7.7%.
Right.
So that's like the average.
Yeah.
And right now we're at 5.5.
Right.
So we're still it's funny. People think that rates are so high now,
Right.
right? When you zoom out and you look at the whole picture,
Right.
we're actually below average still.
And-
Yeah.
and
Daniel had a good. stat
Yeah,
on
and I
this.
think you got to look at why did we get to these low rates? We had a pandemic. The whole economy was shut down, right? So that was the reason. Do we want that to happen again and have low rates? No, most likely a healthy market or a healthy where the banks are making money, the economy is moving forward. 5 to 6% interest rate, in my opinion, I think is healthy.
Healthy.
That's and I think that's where it should be. Now, are there going to be times where there may be lower? Yes, but overall, it probably is going to be around 5 to 6%. And I think people forget to look at, hey, the 2020, do we really want to be cooped up in a house? And,
That's what I was going to say. If I don't want to have another pandemic, so
Yeah.
I'm good on that.
Right.
I'll take the higher rate.
Yeah.
I think we're good for a lifetime. On
Yeah,
that.
I'm good on that one.
And so that's my opinion, but I get it. Everyone wants the low rate. And obviously, I think when I bought my first house in 2009, I was at a 5.5 or something like that.
For the record, I did his mortgage.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great transaction.
Yeah, he was pretty excited about that rate too, by the way.
Yeah.
I got to say, it's still perspective, really.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah.
And Daniel, you talk about a guy who's watching the market close. I mean, he was always watching the market. And so, it's just all perspective, right? When you get 2s and now it's 5, then you're like way too high. But, whenever, again, inflation's up. We haven't even talked about that. Inflation came in the other day at 8.1%.
9.1.
Was it
Yeah.
9?
It was
9.1.
expected 8.8 and 9.8. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. See,
Yeah.
Daniel's a
Forgot-
statistician here.
Yeah. Forgot my glasses.
Yeah, Daniel's so
Got the little, the
whenever it
tape
comes
with
up,
the
That's it,
little,
yeah.
the
right.
little Harry Potter going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
he looks good on this.
Yeah.
So when you have that, so what's happening is they want to keep rates around the rate of inflation, which is if you're talking about 9%. So I'm not sure we're going to get there really fast or anything like that. But if it continues to stay there, then they're going to push rates up until they feel comfortable that that inflation number is going to come down a little bit.
Well, I was told. Let me ask you all this, because I was told that the mortgage rates tend to follow the 10-year Treasury a little bit closer, and
Right.
so right now I saw Goldman Sachs. If I can find the graphic, I'll put it up, or I'll have KG put it up here, but for you guys. But basically, what they're projecting is, so it's risen, right, to whatever the number is, but then over the next 4 years, it's going to basically flatten out, is what they're showing. So to kind of back to Daniel's point,
the average,
where we're now kind of in this equilibrium, if you will. So it basically kind of this jump in the rates kind of wiped out the excess demand that was out there, and so it's now just kind of a level playing field.
And I'd agree with that. I mean, even though I'm saying what they're telling us, but because they do anticipate the inflation number to come down. I mean, that's again, that's when you start hearing talks about recession and things like that. So they are anticipating that number to come down. So based on that information, that's what they're predicting. So, hopefully they're right and everything will level out. That's what we need right now, is a little level out.
And I think a lot of people are still in shock, right? Like you said, they were looking at homes where rates were 2.5%, right? And then it shot up to 5.5%, 6%. Then that's a surprise, right? Where you got to pull back a little bit, but then you still maybe have to move, right? You got to move somewhere,
Right.
and then the rate may not come into play as much.
And I'm a big believer, when I first got in this industry, 1997, a long time ago, by the way, it was just a different mindset, even with my clients. I remember talking to my clients, and everybody would buy their house, and they would pay a point. Everybody would pay buy down, right up front. It was just kind of industry standard. And everybody knew they were going to be in that house 10, 15, 20 years, because that's what everybody did back in the 80s and things like that.
Right.
But in our world now, that's just not the case. I mean, just from a mortgage side, just so everybody knows, people over 90% of the time, you're not going to be in that loan for more than 7 years. So that doesn't mean you're going to sell the house. It means you're either going to refinance or sell, or pay it off. Obviously, you hope that one. But what that tells me is that today we're just all about we want to move. Everybody's just moving. We just can't stay still. We gotta we're on our phones 24/7. We're always trying to. So I think it's just a different world now. So I do think even though the rates are higher and everybody's sitting on these 2.5%, 3% loans, they're going to eventually move sooner than they probably want to, because they're going to get anxious. That what we call it. There's a life event every 5 to 7 years, which is having a baby, new job, divorce, whatever it is that creates you have to move, right? So there's going to be I still think the market's still going to be going.
I'll play devil's advocate there, because I think obviously it's going to be different for everybody.
Right.
But I think, Charlie Munger said incentive drives behavior, right? So when you have that low of a rate, one of the lowest rates in history, I think you're going to try to do everything you can to stay in that, if you can. Now, obviously, if you get a job transfer or something like that, then yeah, that's totally different. But if you have the choice to, I think in the past it's been the grass might be greener over here, and I think it's a little bit different conversation when the rate is that low and you have an educated buyer.
I hope you're wrong.
Hey, yeah, of course.
But I think there is going to be some of that, right? I mean, I think you're still going to have some of that, but I just think people get bored. I mean, that's just what we do now. We get bored, and we got to do something. We got to move. We got to, look what they have. I want that, and I want to get that, and that's what we do now. And I don't know. I mean, I could totally be off on that. And I do think for a while we're going to have a little pause here, because when the stock market's down like it is right now, no one wants to get out of their positions in the stock market right now. So, and not having that available cash, it makes everybody a little nervous. So there is going to be a pause right now. We are definitely going to see a pause. Yeah. But I think before you know it, market's going to be right back to normal, and we're going to be going again.
Yep, I agree. One caveat to think about here, gentlemen, is with rents being so high, I think it's attracting a lot of investors, right? So if you think about it, right, with when we talk about this crash, right, and what a crash is home prices dropping, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have eager investors who are ready to snatch things up, I think if you have them kind of bottom feeding off of a lot of these, and turning into maybe a renting nation here over the next couple of decades or so, I don't know, but I think that'll kind of prop it up. Like there will be a level where there will be investors that are interested, that
they're going to jump in again.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think that could play into this as well. So when you talk about a crash, I don't think there's going to be there will definitely be a market softening, but a crash I'm not so sure about.
And again, where are we talking about here? We're talking about DFW, or are we talking about the nation?
Yeah, we're talking about Dallas right now.
Right. So I just don't see that happening. There's still, I mean,
too many people coming here.
Yeah, 200 people a day. Like, where are they going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what was it? So DFW, the whole Metroplex, which includes North Dallas, Frisco, Collin County, all that, is around 7 million people right now. Projected by 2030 to be at 10 million.
Yeah.
And pass be past Chicago, be the third largest metro in America here pretty soon, and for good reason, right? A lot of people love the taxes here, or lack thereof.
Right.
Very very business friendly
Mm-hmm.
here. So we have a lot of headquarters. What was it? I mean, it seems like every week there's a new Fortune 500 company moving their HQ here.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I just think with all that, there's just, I don't see how I just don't see us having a crash here. I think there will be a softening. There's no doubt about that. And everybody's going to sit back a little bit. So you'll feel the softening a little bit, and everybody's going to get maybe in a little bit of a panic. But there's just, the numbers don't add up. When you look at it on paper, and everybody you talk to that's in this market, the numbers just don't add up to, we're going to have this crash.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that could play into a potential source of supply here is if people, now this is a risky strategy, so I don't recommend it to anybody. But if you are, if you think you could time this, or if you want to try this, then some people might want to do this. Is so we have this dip in the stock market right now, and housing prices at somewhat of a high. And so what you could do is you could see like an overlap where somebody could get out of their home to then, load up on stocks as stocks go back up. And then as stocks are going up, housing prices could come down. So you could see, now again, that's a very risky situation. Get with your financial advisor if you want to do anything like that. But
and if you do, call us. We'll do the cash out for you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Throw that in there.
But that could be.
I like what Warren Buffett says: be fearful when everyone is greedy.
Mm-hmm.
Be greedy when everyone is fearful. Right? I think in the past, a lot of people that were buying the homes in the last 2 years, they were looking mainly at the rates. That the rates were so low, but they're forgetting that they went 150,000 over the list price, but they were all focusing on the rate. Now you may get a better opportunity to get get paid closing cost, or you can get a lower sales price, right? And the rate you can always refinance down the road, but once you've locked in that price, right, you know what your equity is, and then if the market goes up later on, then you have made more money. So,
Jimmy, you know that saying, right, about the rate and the house, right?
Date the rate, marry the house.
There you go.
Yeah.
Which means, for me that means, refinancing
It's available in the future, right? So yeah,
Exactly.
you're not stuck in the rate.
Yeah.
You can refinance that one in the future. If we do have a recession, everybody, there's a lot of people talking about it. The rates will probably come down. There'll be an opportunity to do it right there.
Mm-hmm.
With the house prices, again, you go back to the chart from 1950 to today, and it's a 45-degree angle straight up. I don't think that's going to stop. I don't see. I mean, this if it didn't stop in 2008, it's definitely not going to stop now.
Everybody, you got to have somewhere to live, right?
Yeah.
So that's having your wealth in hard assets that you can feel, touch, taste, smell is going to be one of the safest investments,
Right.
no question.
And I go back to do your own research, but look at it as a local statistics. Don't look at the national, because if you throw in Vegas, California, areas that are more risk of a bigger crash, then you're gonna be a little bit more concerned. But if you start looking at the numbers just for DFW, then the numbers still make sense here.
Right.
Yeah, don't listen to CNN. Listen to the Dallas, Texas Living podcast here.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
It says ask the experts right there on the screen
Yeah,
right
there you go.
See?
Yeah.
Hit that shot over there. Perfect. Yeah, so one stat here too, from 2010 to 2020, so over the last decade, this is straight from the census, DFW saw a net inbound migration of 500,000 people, which led the nation. So this is one of the most popular spots to be, not only in Texas, but in the entire country, which I think that's a good little segue to the resilient article.
And I got to add in there that's why I was born here, because I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in this market.
Right.
I can say that. I came from Europe, okay? So I picked Dallas. Yeah.
He chose this place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been asked, as a single gentleman, girls ask me, "Oh, where are you from, Dallas?" And then it's like, "Well, why haven't you lived anywhere else?" Sometimes they'll ask that, and then I'll be like, honestly, I mean, I've looked at different places. Like I've looked at Florida, like I think Tampa's kind of cool, Miami, obviously, but I mean, it's there's so much going on in Dallas, and of course, this is my home. I know, I've been here my whole life practically, and so like, they're just the level of knowledge that I can provide to people coming in as in this profession. That's something that I would have a leg up on other people, other agents.
Yep.
I mean, what am I going to do? Go to Florida and not know what the heck I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when people talk about moving here or living here, and there's not a lot of pizzazz here, right? So there's not this ocean. You don't have you're not going to go skiing here or whatever, but it's just stable. I mean, it's convenient, it's stable, and
I like that word.
It is, it's a good place to raise your kids, right? I mean, we see that. Yeah, great place to raise your kids. Schools are good. Overall, I mean, not every one of them, every school district's perfect, but
8 out of the top 10 in the state of Texas school districts are in DFW.
okay, didn't know that. There, it doesn't.
We're stacked.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's very, very stable here. And you know what? If I want to go to the mountains, I'll go on vacation in the mountains. I mean, like people that
Yeah,
live
a
there
flight
generally
to-
don't even go to the mountains. You know,
Right,
they're
sure.
just like the mountains in the background, right?
So have you ever asked people that live close to the beach, right, and asked them, hey, do you go to the beach
right,
every
I ask
day?
them all
And they're
the
like, no, I got to go do my
Right.
grocery shop. I got
Right.
to work. I mean, they do the same things as us, right?
Same thing.
Yeah. And so they don't go to the beach every day. They don't go in the mountains every day, right? So it's...
I will say this though, there is something to be said about
right.
the backdrop, right?
I
Yeah.
agree.
Like
I
in
agree.
the mountains. Like I had a soccer tournament out in Utah one time, and it was like we
it's
played
beautiful.
our games on this beautiful soccer field with the mountains were right in your face. It was gorgeous. But then we had another one in Long Beach out there, and you had the beach out there
Right.
too, and so it's cool to look at,
Right.
but if
You
you're
take
getting
it, you take it for granted when you're there, though, right? Do you even like?
right,
I mean, and
But
the
here's-
thing I would say
go
is the
ahead.
weather. The weather, like the weather, sometimes it
weather's
gets a little
great.
warm here, right? It gets a little warm, no doubt. Maybe in California it's a little cooler, but yeah, that's a lot. That's a big price to pay.
But I was gonna say earlier, I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah,
but
you're
the a flight out to Denver. I used to go out to Denver all the time.
Uh-huh.
$49. I used to get an airplane ticket out there
Yeah.
on like Frontier Airlines or something.
Yeah.
I don't care about the Frontier is bad. Well, why is it bad? I've never had a bad experience. It's
Right.
just you're in this giant tube flying
Yeah.
to another place. Like,
yeah. What is it? 1.5
As long
hours?
as I get there,
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right? So-
Probably not going to take a 6-hour flight on Frontier, but
Yeah.
anything
No, no,
under
no.
that, I'm good.
Yeah, we're
Mm.
good. So, but yeah, so if you want to go out, and that's the thing about Dallas, right? We're centrally located. We can get to both coasts in 2 hours, and you're boom, and you're there, and then you can come back. But I will say, I will, for those of you who have made it this long on the podcast, I'm going to give you a gem right here. If you haven't looked into Rockwall, Texas, Rockwall is one of the most underrated suburbs in town right now. I feel like being on that lake, having the harbor district over there,
Mm.
and then building the Sapphire Bay.
Yeah.
That's going to be a game changer over there. I feel
Wow.
that area is going to blow up.
I grew up over there, not in Rockwall, but right next door in Garland. So on that lake, I grew up on that lake.
Yeah.
Name of my high school was Lakeview of that lake. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's a very cool area. Again, it's just different. It's kind of a different world over there. I feel like sometimes, but it's very cool.
But
Very
it's
cool.
only
a little bit
it's
more
only-
open. Like there's houses have a little bit more land out there.
Yeah.
Very
Yep.
cool. It's just a very cool little area.
And it's only 30 minutes away from Dallas.
Right.
So it's closer than the Frisco that everybody loves and all that,
Yeah.
right? So you're closer to Dallas, and you've got that huge lake. You could have a boat out there
Right.
if you wanted to. Rockwall and Heath. So
Right.
Heath is the other area right there. That's Heath is where some of the more
The bigger homes are out in Heath, right?
yeah, some of the bigger homes where
Mhm.
you got the nicer homes right on the lake. Some super sexy homes over there.
Yep.
But
Nice area though.
anyway, so I got to give you this resiliency report right here. Okay, so let me give you some context here. So I'll have KG maybe put the article on the screen for you guys. But so in 2021, so here's where.
Is it true or false?
So here are the qualifications, right? What makes a resilient city? Okay, so the Seville's World Research Team has ranked 500 cities on the depth of their real estate market, economic strength, knowledge economy, and technology and environmental resilience. Top cities in the index, blah blah blah. So it's based on real estate, economy, tech, environment, knowledge as well. Okay, so in the world, okay, Dallas is now
Hang on. Daniel, what do you think?
I would say
in the world.
in the world. I mean, I do think it's a top 30.
Yeah.
Top 30.
I'm just trying to. Yeah, it would have to be. I would say I'm going to go top 20.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
We're back to normal.
Yeah.
Conservative
Yeah.
Daniel
Yeah.
and aggressive
Yeah.
Jeff over here.
Yeah, let's go aggressive.
Okay, Dallas came in at number 10.
Wow.
Top 10 in the world. So you've got New York, London, LA, San Francisco, Tokyo, Seoul, Korea, Berlin, Boston, Atlanta, Dallas. I don't know how Atlanta beat us. There's a little bit of crime in Atlanta. My good
Stockholm,
buddies from Buckhead.
Sweden didn't make it.
Stockholm didn't make it. But so Dallas, but
barely count.
the interesting part about this is Dallas was so I read you off those qualifications. So on the real estate side, Dallas was number 3 behind New York and LA.
Okay.
So Dallas has the 3rd best or most resilient housing market in the world.
I mean, when you look at all the stats and you know what we were talking about earlier, it makes sense. That's why I was like, you know, it's got to be, because we just, after going through 2008, it's like if we could come back with, like, we only dropped 4.8% or whatever, it's 4.5, whatever it was, then I mean, what else? I mean, that is as bad as it gets, like for the housing market and the economy. And I felt like we just kind of shook it off and just kept going.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like here, honestly.
You got knocked down.
Right.
Yeah.
Brushed the dirt off your shoulder.
Let's go.
Little Jay-Z quote there.
Right. Resilient, baby.
Resilient.
No.
Maybe that should be the name of the podcast. The Resilient.
Resilience.
I don't know. I don't know if that'll stick.
We'll let y'all decide on that.
So, all right, let's hit them with the conclusion. Let's wrap this up. So, should people buy a house in Dallas right now? Daniel, start with you.
Based on the stats, I agree. This is a good time. And I do agree with Warren Buffett, what he says. Be greedy when everyone is fearful. And a lot of people are pulling back now. At least you don't get into bidding wars. You don't get into having to pay over list price. You get more from the seller. You probably can make a better deal now than if the rates goes down and everyone jumps in, and then now all the bidding war starts happening again. So I feel like this is a good opportunity. And like you said, Dallas is ranked number 10 in the resilience, right? It's one of the better cities in the world. So,
and if you call me, I'll go full savage on the seller's agent. I don't care. We'll get a good deal for you.
So that's my opinion.
He will too. I'm not kidding y'all.
Yeah.
He will.
What do you think, Jeff?
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, like, it's just, I mean, you just look at the charts and you look at the numbers, and there's nothing else to even argue. There's not even an arguable point. I'd love to hear someone's point on that. Yeah, you know, everybody's got a prediction on what's gonna happen, but you know, people that are predicting that are guessing, right? And we're taking numbers and facts and applying. If you're trying to go the other way, I would love to see those arguments and you show me where those numbers are not gonna add up.
Get in the comments, people.
Right. Sure, I would love to see it. I'm excited. I love to see the other side. I'm one of those guys. I don't always believe in what, you know, I read or whatever, but I like to see both sides of the argument always. And the more I find on the other side, and we were actually I was digging for content for that. And there's not a lot of content that's showing the other way.
I'm going to switch gear a little bit. Yep. Do you guys remember in 2020, right? When oil went to zero,
right,
a lot of people said, or a lot of these economists were saying oil will disappear. We don't need oil anymore. It's going to just disappear. Electrical cars, blah, blah, blah. Look, oil shot up to $120. And common sense says oil is going to go up, right? If it's at zero. But a lot of economists wanted to give it completely opposite opinion. And that's where research comes in, right? Don't look at the whole picture in terms of nationally. Do your research on local statistics, and from there make a decision if buying is a good opportunity.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think
that's Daniel, our statistician, firing away there.
I know. That's
very analytical. I like it. Huh? Very sexy.
I think my conclusion, guys, is going to be, you know, I think you have to look at it long term and short term.
Yeah. So
short term, the argument could be made, you know, maybe hold off, right?
I agree.
So, you know, if you're looking at like under 3 years,
right?
Maybe
I agree with that.
Maybe you hang on and just see what's going to happen.
But if you're for that,
but if you're 3 year, anything past 3 years, it's a no-brainer,
right?
Not even a question.
But that's always been with housing purchases, right? Is that you keep it at least for 3 to 5 years,
right? And
then you'll be fine. But if you're wanting to make money on it within a year, then that's much harder.
Yeah, that was only the last couple of years. But that's typical, right? Because you know you've got cost involved in it, And if you're only going to be in a house short term, especially in this market, you cannot count on the appreciation jumping after what we just went through too much. It'll get back to normal. We think anywhere from 3 to 5% is where everybody's predicting where the appreciation is going to go, which is back where it was for the longest time, in the market. So that tells you that, hey, we're getting close back to normal if that happens. That's what we want.
Sorry, we cut you off, Jimmy. Your opinion.
That's what we do, Daniel.
Yeah,
I was good. I was done.
Okay.
I think my point was made. So I think, short term, you might do a little bit more extensive research. Maybe you get more micro on it as far as like, if you're looking at, Frisco versus say like a Richardson or something like that, or a Carrollton, which won't be as popular, right? Maybe you look at micro communities like that.
Right.
So now we're not looking at Dallas anymore. We're looking at the actual suburbs within Dallas.
Yep.
Now you kind of look from those standpoints.
And even the neighborhoods too, when you start getting to that degree, right? So you're exactly right.
Thank you, Jeff.
So what's the
Right,
conclusion? Jimmy. What are we saying here?
We're saying that the podcast is almost over is what we're I'm kidding.
Do your research.
Yeah, do your research.
Do your research. Keep it locally. And if you're going to be in the house for 3 to 5 years, you should be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Three plus. Anything beyond 3 is a no-brainer. Anything under that, might do some more research there.
And we determined it's very resilient.
Yep, very resilient. Yeah.
You guys were sweating.
That was a hot topic, baby. It's getting hot in here, baby.
Yeah.
Getting hot.
Good topic.
Awesome, guys. Well, listen, if you found value if you've made it this far, you got to smash that like button, please, if you don't mind. And make sure you are subscribed as well. If you have any other topics that you want us to cover, get in the comments down below as well. Let us know. If you want to, play devil's advocate on what our conclusion was here today. I look at every comment, so maybe we can have a little a follow-up, part 2. So make sure you follow for part 2. And, I think that should do it for us here. If you don't know where to go from here, you should see some videos popping up on the end screen. Right now, they can point you in the right direction. Of course, we covered just about every inch of Dallas-Fort Worth at this point. So if you're interested in what it's like living in any of the different suburbs, we've got you covered there. And with that being said, until next time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good job, everybody.
Good job.
See you guys.
See you.